Thursday, October 12th, 2023. You're watching the Big Tuddies Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm the driver, Sammer, hanging out with my esteemed fantasy football expert panel, Poppy Latte and Tony D. Boys, it is week 6. Tonight officially kicks it off, but before we go into all of that, we got to talk about some injury news and NFL news, in general. Things that some fantasy football owners may or may not need to be concerned with. What's going on here?
What's there not concerned about?
Guys who don't have these dudes don't have to worry about them, or guys coming in off injury who are ready to play again. So
I feel like we should just talk about who's not injured.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you're okay this week?
Shorter list.
It's a shorter list, yes.
Good Lord.
Listen, he was kind of off the radar a little bit. Some people were lucky enough to, listen to us and draft him early and stash him. But he was the waiver wire darling. And if I had sad music to play, I would play it, because a lot of people that I play with in leagues that have him are in first place, and they have lost now A-Chain to IR. Minimum 4 weeks. Extremely sad. Mostert's probably got a little bit of an uptick. Ahmed is coming off injury. Jeff Wilson is going to be activated, Tony, I think soon, right? He's in that 21-day window.
Yeah, he's in the window. As of right now, it kind of seems like Ahmed is ahead of Wilson.
Wilson, yeah.
So as of right now, I'm sure we'll get a little more clarity here, by tomorrow afternoon. But as of right now, if you got to make moves, that I would probably be going Ahmed route.
Yeah, not just that. It's just A-Chain. It's sad. 4 weeks, guys. Next one, Tony.
T. Higgins, he's still dealing with the chest injury. He's getting in a little bit of work. It's very limited. Coach said that he's hoping to see a little more progression throughout practice. If so, he may be able to go. On that note, I mean, Tyler Boyd really didn't show up for anybody last week. I think it's going to be the Jamar Chase show again if Higgins doesn't show up.
Say no Higgins means Chase is getting 8,000 targets.
Actually, guys, we do a lot of box scoring, box check scoring. Tyler Boyd actually scored a touchdown, a beautiful one, and it got called back on a penalty that wasn't his fault. So he would have popped on the stat sheet, but stupid penalties. We all know about that. Thank you, Donovan Smith. Mike. Yeah, let's not go down that.
Next.
This next one's near and dear to your heart.
This one hurts, man. This one hurts. I drafted a lot of AR, a lot of Anthony Richardson, Colts running quarterback rookie sensation. His running ability gives him a nice floor every week, and I have him in a lot of keeper leagues. I have him in the Dynasty League, but it was a concern, right, Tony? We had these conversations in the offseason. He was often injured in college, always nicked up, always banged up, and if you're going to be a running quarterback, you're going to get hurt. It's an AC joint, similar. I think it's the same injury Jalen Hurts had last year. So he's on IR 4 weeks, but realistically, they're saying it might be 6 weeks. It hurts. So it's going to be the Gardner Minshew show. You guys know I've started Zach Wilson. I started Minshew to go to a championship. So he's going to be, at least he's going to keep the ship afloat. I think a little bit of uptick for Pittman because they're going to pass the ball more and the other passing options. But yeah, that sucks. Lost AR for 6 weeks.
One thing I think people may forget also is look at some of the content we've been talking about with AR. Steichen is there, so we've seen Minshew put together good games. I really think a little bit of Steichen could rub off on Minshew. He's going to be coaching him too. He's a starter now, so there's a possibility we might see the best of Minshew we've ever seen. And I think if you take the physical side of it away, with the rushing ability of AR, I really think Minshew could be comparable to what we've seen in the air from AR already. I mean, we have seen a couple of passes from AR that I think shocked us all. Yeah. I mean, he has threaded up a couple nice ones. But yeah, I think as far as fantasy goes, I think Minshew is going to be very comparable.
It'll be interesting to see how he fares against a defense that is preparing for him, as opposed to coming in off the bench in the middle of a game, where most of the time backup quarterbacks tend to look better than they really are. But I'm assuming there's going to be an uptick for the running back side of things with Zach Moss. And yesterday they also said that Taylor is going to be full go, ready to roll. So I'm curious to see how they lean on that running game or don't lean on that running game. They have 2 dynamic backs at this point. So that'll be interesting too. Little side note there, guys.
Agreed. And Steichen was actually with Minshew in Philadelphia, weren't they? Yeah, that was
so, yeah.
the year Jalen got his shoulder injury last year, right before the Super Bowl. Yeah, so
That's
Minshew,
why he brought him in.
He's already played in that offense. He's familiar with it. They're familiar with each other. I think they're going to be fun. Next one is Darren Waller. He's now dealing with a groin. He is day to day. Tony,
he said he's fine.
Tony, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you, Tony, because I know you drafted him, and I was pissed off at you for drafting him because I wanted him. You took him 2 spots before me, and the reality is you did me a favor, and everyone else that took him before me did me a favor.
Yeah.
He's been dealing with that hamstring injury that is just chronic at this point, and now he's got a groin. So, vaya con Dios. Good luck to Waller owners. I'm sorry that you have to deal with that every week. Tony?
Just call him Darren.
He says it's a non-issue.
He says
he's going to be in there.
Players always say that. Yeah, I'm fine. And then next thing you know, they're not playing.
Well, they also run into a buzzsaw that, well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, Buffalo has been a little banged up on D, but I think that game's going to be a slaughter. They're just getting led to the slaughter. Jahmyr Gibbs looks like they're going to be without him also. Another small, shifty back. He pulled up with a hammy last week. And from what it's looking like as far as the news goes, I think he's going to sit for a week. It would be good for them. It gives them kind of a mini bye, gives him some time to rest. So I think with the way Montgomery's running, they lean on the old Montgomery.
Did you see MCDC's press conference yesterday? Did you guys see that? Did you guys see that? Happen to catch that? Yeah, for the Gibbs owners, right, that are upset, of the usage, and now he's hurt, and you're like, damn it, at least it makes it a little easier because you could put him on the bench, right, Tony? You don't have to worry about it. He's hurt. But MCDC came out yesterday at his presser, and they asked him about Montgomery, and he said, I wasn't expecting Monty to be this good, but having a running back like this that can carry the ball 20, 25, 30 times a game, we'd be fools not to do it. And they said, well, what about Gibbs? He's like, well, he's more of a change of pace kind of back. Pass him the ball,
man.
Get him the ball in creative ways. But Monty's still going to get his 20, 25, or 30 carries a game.
Yeah.
So, for those of you that drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, ouch.
What could have been.
I wonder if it's because of his build that they don't know if he can take the pounding, even though he did in college. I'm curious but I agree. Like, you see a guy like Montgomery runs hard and he gets you yards. I've always said he's been underrated, and you're like, why did you draft him then if you... Maybe they didn't think Montgomery was going to be this good heading into the offseason, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, this guy's damn good.
Yeah, it's not a bad problem for the Lions. They're winning, right? So for them, outside of fantasy, they don't give a crap. They're winning games, and they have some Thunder and Lightning there. And Montgomery is running behind the best offensive line that he's ever ran, so he's looking phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's been a grinder that can break tackles. Holy crap, what a difference when he's breaking tackles at the second level.
He's a great running back.
A great running back.
Maybe that's what it is. It's the fact that he can break tackles. Sorry, Tony, go ahead.
Let me ask you guys a question. So I was thinking about this yesterday. So given the physical archetype of or what it's becoming in the NFL, now that we have these smaller backs, a lot of guys sub 200 pounds. You got these smaller receivers that are, just lightning quick. Do you think that that's part of the reason that we're seeing a lot of these injuries are lingering through, multiple weeks, and guys are having a hard time coming back? Because it's not, back when everybody was a Derrick Henry, right? And it was just run the ball up the gut, smash it in the face. If you had a little ankle issue, maybe low ankle sprain, something like that, it was like you could just fight through the pain, right? And get out there and just, Now you're required to have so much, lateral movement. A lot of these guys, it's the way that they can keep their balance after bouncing off of everybody, or catching a couple of swipes, guys swatting at them and stuff like that. Do you think that has an effect like that? That's why we're seeing this now, because I feel like back in the day it was, guys had a couple limited practices, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they were back in there and they were playing on the weekend. And things didn't linger like this. They weren't getting pulled out of games as much. I don't know.
I think it's how they practice.
What do you think?
It's how they practice, but I think it's also. I'm be careful how I say this, right? I think it's just a different generation, Tony. You know what I mean? It's just different. You know what I mean? Like, there's another guy on this list right now that was cleared by the medical staff and was just like, I'm gonna use an option day. I'm gonna call out of work. You know what I mean? It still hurts. It's a boo-boo. So it's just different, right? It's different in all walks of life. It's different at work. It's just different. These cats are just different. And that's okay.
I do forget about that sometimes until I see the old, historical games, and you see like Terry Bradshaw get speared with the crown of the helmet, full speed, right in the face, and then he just gets up and plays the next down.
Lott cut off a finger at halftime and went back in the game, bro. That's different.
I think it's how they coddle them week to week now, because the NFLPA protects these guys and is like, no, you're not going to go out there and just grind yourself into the ground and be out of the league in 3 years. They don't practice the same way they play. A lot of it is
regulated.
And in some instances, like Gibbs, for instance, he's not getting a lot of playing time. And for a guy like him to go from running 50%, 60% in practice, then getting a snap or two here in game time action and going to 100%, that is like a recipe for a hamstring. That you got to get warm, and they don't let him get warm, and so he's going to have stuff like a groin or a hamstring, little things like that are just things that you tweak when you're not running warmed up. But going back to the thing with practice, it's because they don't run 1,000% in practice anymore. They get coddled, day to day, week getting up to the game. It's like, it's just different, man. They don't do what they used to be able to do. And even in training camp, that's why it takes you 2-3 weeks to see teams actually tackling properly, because they don't get to tackle in training camp. So I think it goes to that. I don't know necessarily. I'm sure there's some guys out there a little bit like, I got a fingernail. But I think the majority of these guys do want to be physical, but it just can't do it if you're not warmed up to do it.
True. Speaking of things being regulated, Tank Dell news. He caught a concussion last week. That has been a little bit more difficult this year for guys getting back within the week on a concussion. Seems like the protocols, maybe just a little bit more strict this year. Yeah. Expect him to miss this weekend. I would plan elsewhere. Luckily, that's kind of, you're looking for a wide receiver too at that point, maybe a flex position. So it should be a little easier for you. Expect Nico to get an uptick if so.
Correct. Oh, boy. Hold on. Where's my tab? Sorry, guys.
Deshaun Watson?
Yep. Deshaun Watson.
Not
practicing. Once again.
This guy.
Yeah, I don't get it. Guys, I just don't get it. It's what we just talked about. He's got a shoulder sprain as well. He wants to make sure that, he doesn't further injure himself. Doesn't want to mess up.
I think I think he's got a case of the Niners.
That fully guaranteed contract he has or anything. I don't know, man. Like, you're not going to lose any money. I don't know.
Hey,
I think it is a case of the Niners. I think Tony's right.
Yeah.
Who wants to face the Niners, bro? Nobody.
I think I'll call off this week again. Yeah, that's a hefty one. I'm not getting hit by this. A little bit of soreness. Nah, I'm good. Thanks. PJ Walker, hey, bro. Good luck. Fist bump.
Oh, man.
Knock it out, dude. Knock it out the park.
Saquon Barkley, good news. Poppy, I think you got your boy back this week. They spoke with him yesterday. He's getting some limited work in. He said, as long as he practices in full by the end of the week, he feels like he's 99% as of yesterday. And he said, give him the full ride. If he's good to go, he's starting. Put him in your fantasy lineup, and he's going to tear it up. Kind of a tall task, but
amen. Amen. All I can say is amen. Okay, hallelujah. Like I started out 2-0, and I'm on a 3-game streak, and me and both Sammer were ready to fire up Aaron Jones, and I thought I was going to win this week, and equalize, and no Aaron Jones. So I'm on a 3-game losing streak. I need my horses. I need Aaron Jones. I need Barkley.
Hey,
thank you.
I blame all of you who drafted that guy, who's been injured all the time his entire career. I don't draft guys like that. Sorry.
Would you not draft Christian McCaffrey?
I didn't want to draft McCaffrey either. Tony knows. I left my draft.
CMC has not had injury issues since he's been traded to the Niners.
I know.
Different scenario.
But I had him
now. Nothing serious, but
he burned me. So
what's up, Poppy?
I just said I immediately called Tony after my draft, because that's what we do, right? We evaluate, self-evaluate, then we evaluate together. And I told him, bro, I had the 12th pick. I didn't want Saquon. I had to take Saquon. You have to take.
You don't.
I did.
Yeah, at some point the value catches up to the risk.
Yeah.
No.
And hopefully now there's no
there.
injuries, and we just ride Saquon all the way off into
So
the.
you have Aaron Jones and Saquon Barkley.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
I do.
And
I didn't feel great.
For God's sake,
That's
man,
like
I was
having
gonna
a
say,
wagon
players,
with 2 broken wheels, and you're just like, I got all the horses, but can't do much about it.
players and coaches, man, please just be honest with us. Like, I know there's some sort of gamesmanship from team to team where you're trying to hold out info, but like everybody's still pushing back on fantasy. This is a major industry for you guys, like a huge revenue stream of all kinds of stuff. I mean, the fantasy players now are buying jerseys for teams that they don't, it's not their squad. They live 2,000 miles away because they, that team or that player won them a championship or something. Like, help us out, man.
Who the hell's doing that? Who's
Sam,
buying a jersey for another-
everybody, man.
Hey,
Welcome
Sam,
to fantasy.
I've seen that. I've seen that. I have too, Tony. Sammer, though, Sammer's not buying a jersey from anybody else. No. He's going to be like, thank you for your services. See your way out.
Yeah, you're a pawn in the larger scheme of things here, man. I'm not. It's like a owner of a business walking around with one of his employees' name tags on his shirt. Like, yeah, he's my employee of the week, so I decided I'm going to honor him by putting his name tag on. Hell out of here, dude. That's not happening.
Sammer.
Anyway,
only with
Detroit.
Sammer. I have bought jerseys. Sammer's a savage.
No thanks, man. I've been offered jerseys too, and I'm like, no, I'm good, thanks. Let's go back to these injuries.
Back in here, Amon-Ra
long.
practicing Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff here. A lot of guys just banged up right now, and a lot of top guys. This is one thing that's been really difficult. Is especially with HN, Jefferson, all these guys are top 3, top 5 of their position. This is not real common. Kind of sucks. Amon-Ra practicing Wednesday. He should be good to go by this weekend. He's looking better. We got Miles Sanders still dealing with the groin. He did not practice. I wouldn't be playing him this weekend anyway. So if you're waiting on him, keep waiting a week.
He agrees with you. He doesn't want to play either.
He doesn't want to play.
Yeah.
Chuba looks much better. Yeah, he had 9 carries, 35 yards. Not anything to write home about, but he definitely looks more explosive. Definitely looks like the younger, quicker, the back with more juice.
Even with Chuba, just to add, I think this weekend, I just think, Miami is forcing teams into a game script. They come out, they take the lead early. I don't really see the Panthers running the ball a whole lot. I think this gets out of control quick, and I think they're forced to pass.
They've been out of a lot of games, and I think they just still run the ball in the fourth quarter for no reason either way. So I get what you're saying with the Dolphin side of things, but this is the Panthers team that is like, we're here to evaluate our young quarterback. We're also just going to continue to run the ball. It's like they're playing.
I mean, you could try and bank on some garbage time.
Yeah, I'm just saying, probably don't play anybody on the Panthers, but that's just me as a Bucs fan speaking. Latte Travis Kelce expected to play.
He just went to play. This guy's not human. Tony talked about him last week or last episode. His nickname's Zeus. He is Zeus. He is different. Taylor Swift. There's real magic there. There's real magic. Kidding. Kelsey's back. You got to fire him up, but be careful. It is a high ankle sprain. Although he is not human, it's still going to be extremely painful. It's going to limit his mobility. They're still going to throw him the ball 15 freaking times because they have nobody else to throw it to. So you fire him up, just pray to God he doesn't, re-aggravate it or make it worse.
I'm guaranteed a red zone tutty there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the beautiful things right now about the tight end position is, a guy can PPR his way into top 5. It's just it drops off a cliff somewhere after the first 3-4 dudes, and then it all depends on just who gets the most looks. And if someone falls in the end zone, they're going to be top 10 tight end no matter what. So that's where we're at. Chris Olave popped up. I think I didn't see too much detail. I think maybe it happened in practice, but he's got a toe now. He's been limited, but should be good to go this weekend. Toes are normally just grin and bear it.
Also,
Is that it?
That's it for injuries. I did want to mention really quick, guys. We have something that happens every year. Tony laughs about it. We all laugh about it. Bipocalypse. It's coming up next week, guys. You got lots of teams on bye in week 7. Carolina Panthers, Cincinnati Bengals, Dallas Cowboys, Houston Texans, New York Jets, Tennessee Titans. Start making plans now. This is what I'm talking about when or what I've said when we talked about the 101 episode, where you start looking at defenses, or maybe you're going to stream a running back because running back's on bye week. Start paying attention to those things now. Prepare yourself now, because it's the most teams that are going to be on bye the entire year is week 7. So be prepared.
I don't have a single one of them.
I don't either. No, I have a Jet. I got Garrett Wilson. I have a Jet. But, still, just be prepared, because you don't want to be caught with your pants down all of a sudden. Now you're fighting with somebody with waiver priority because you need a player. If you prepare yourself the week before, like right now, start looking at it, waivers are open. Go do your thing. If you got a good match.
Look around.
Yeah.
Get those trades out there. Don't be afraid to try and get a trade done for your bye week. But sometimes people don't even pay attention. You might even be able to trade off a guy that's coming up on bye and get a player that's already had theirs.
All right,
Speaking of being prepared,
yeah.
It's time for us to help you guys get ready for week 6. Obviously, it starts tonight. My favorite segment every single week. They gotta get them in. Tony, we'll start with you. Who's your get them in?
I'm going Isaiah Pacheco. I really think, he had a little bit of a slow start.
It's not he's going against Denver or nothing.
No, that definitely helps. But, he's been ramping up every week. I think that, at this point, after the last 4 games, he's running at 4.8 a clip, 3 tutties over the last 4 games. He's just heating up. And then, of course, there's Denver. So, with Zeus maybe a little limited as far as his mobility, and Pacheco's just running great. I think they feed him the ball a lot. I think it's an easy way for them to manage the clock and just squeak out an easy win against a team that they could kind of rest up a little bit. Just like take it easy, put a couple tutties on the board, and just slowly run the clock out.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think that's exactly what the Chiefs are going to do. Anybody in any backfield that's playing Denver, it's like a gift. Just you're welcome. I played the guy that had Brees last week, which was ouch. Anyways, they're going to run the ball, and I think Sammer's right. They're going to run the ball with Pacheco between the 20s. When they get in the red zone, they're going to go to Zeus. He's going to get a red zone touchdown. That's just what happens. That's what the Chiefs do. And
Pacheco is really good at getting you a tutty outside of the 20-yard line. On a run that's like a 3rd and 5, bust through.
Yeah.
27-yard touchdown, Pacheco.
Yeah, he's running hard, man. Yeah, he's really violent this year.
Agreed.
I think that's like his style. Latte, your got to get him in.
My got to get him in. It's 2 Vikings, believe it or not. I got T.J. Hawkinson. He's already getting hyper-targeted like crazy. Expect that to continue. He's going to get 10-plus targets a game. They lost Justin Jefferson for at least 4 weeks. The severity of the injury says that he might not be back if they're still continuing to lose, which how are they going to win without their best player, Justin? Huh? Can you explain that to me? How are they supposed to win for you to come back if they don't have you, but you're the best player? I'm not saying you should force yourself to come back. I'm just saying it's hard
to get Drake May if he's playing too, Latte.
It's hard. You're right. And then my other one, which I have in all leagues, and I'm going to fire him up this week, is Addison. Addison, I don't know. You guys heard the joke. You guys saw that he got a major speeding ticket, and his coach said, "We're gonna put the pedal to the metal." And he said, "Whoa, no pun intended. Hold on."
No pun intended.
but he's going to get targeted like crazy. Osborne, obviously, waivers. If you have any, if he's still out there, he might be available. I doubt it at this point after waivers went through. But if he is, pick him up. His target's going to go up. But my got to get him in is T.J. Hawkinson and honorable mention Addison.
Listen, what's happened to Addison is what happens when you go see a Fast and Furious movie in the movie theater, then you hop in your sports car on the way home, and you're like, all right, let's fucking do this, and you drive. So what's happening right now in practice, they've got him running full speed, and he's like, I'm the guy this week, and then he gets in his car, he forgets he's not running routes, and he's just flying down the highway.
Wait,
it totally makes sense.
You're saying
the team should pay the fine.
You're saying they brought in Vin Diesel to do a speech for the team at practice?
That makes sense.
He said family 186 times? In a fight.
That's what the script would lead you to
And you couldn't see him in the middle of the scrum, just 5'4".
Hey, you go run that post route for your family.
You would never guess that he's only 5'4" or whatever his actual.
He's short. I don't know what he is, but
you would never have guessed that because like every shot,
every
is like
angle, bro, it makes him look massive, bro.
Like, damn, dude, that guy's bigger than The Rock. No, he's not. Actually, he's 4'11".
So actually, The Rock curls him.
Bro, he is
Wow.
tiny. But you're right. I was thinking about the other day. I saw him in some media scrum, and I was like, man, they must shoot the angles to make this guy look mad because he is tiny.
Yeah. That's probably why he likes playing Groot, because he gets to be that massive tree human being thing, whatever the hell that thing is.
Next,
Yeah,
thing.
you want to play a tree that's 12 feet tall? Sign me up. You don't need my face at all, just my voice. Yeah. Sign me up. Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Hey, you guys have any? We did the gotta get them in, but you guys have any take them out players this week?
I've got a couple. Christian, you want me to go?
I don't have any. You can go ahead.
I'll stick with the running back. I'm not going to play Dameon Pierce this week. He's looking over his first few games this season. He is struggling to put 3 yards per carry on the board. He's been running 2.1, 2.3 yards per carry in some games. He's going up against the Saints defense, who has allowed 1 rushing touchdown so far this year. So Dameon Pierce, I am letting sit on the bench this week.
That's it.
Now, talking a little bit about the Vikings, you brought it up. What do we think about that situation? Like, where's your guys' head at on this with all the moves that were made day before yesterday? I'm really not sure, whether or not this is just a depth thing, or if they are getting ready to sell the farm and get into the C-Dub sweepstakes. Like, what do you guys think we're doing here?
Drake May. I think it's what Sammer said. Drake May, C-Dub, doesn't matter. I think they're in the quarterback sweepstakes at this point. I think as soon as they said, Justin Jefferson may not come back if we don't win, because what's the point? It kind of it told me everything I needed to hear, right? Like, what? Who's talking like that? Unless you're like, it's done. You're not climbing out of it. You're not going to make the playoffs at this point. It's a wrap.
It behooves them not to climb out of it. That's where they've reached the point where they're like, all right, we now have to start thinking about the implications of if we start winning, which we don't want to do. We're at the end of the road with the Kirk Cousins deal. Like, I could see Kirk Cousins getting traded to the Patriots and the Vikings eating the majority of whatever's left on that contract just to get him out of town. Kind of sign, seal, deliver the whole thing. Let's go get Drake May. Hey, if Justin Jefferson's not feeling 100% at the end of these 4 weeks, thank you. Keep it moving. We'll see you later. We'll still pay off your bonuses just to be nice and all, but we don't want you to play. Like, that's what I think's happening. They're like, all right,
I'm hoping,
go all in.
For Poppy's sake. I mean, the Jets have been in talks also. They already contacted the team when Aaron went down. They were shut down. They weren't interested at that point, so they're saying they may be opening talks back up. I mean, I don't think in real life football it's great for the Jersey Jets, but I do think for fantasy it's going to make Wilson more relevant. It's going to help out Brees. I think for fantasy's sake, it would be nice if he were to get traded over that way. I really don't know what Kirk is going to represent in New England. I was taking a look at the Patriots, and it's like their leading receiver has less yards than DJ Moore had last week.
Yeah, but when you trade for a player, you're trading for a player either to rent him out because you have a Super Bowl window, or you're trading for him 2 years down the road. So you're looking ahead. Trading for Kirk Cousins as a Patriots organization gives them their kind of solution there. Then they can kind of focus on everything else around him heading into 2024. That's why I'm thinking. That's why I don't see the reason for the Jets to do it at all. Because
if the Patriots are getting him, they're going to re-sign him, and it's going to be the long-term answer for now. For the Jets, I'll make it quick because you guys know I got to get out here. We're going to get to the next segment. But as it relates to the Jets, I think it makes zero sense for the Jets. I would love for them to do it, Tony. I would love for them to do it, but it makes zero sense now. At the beginning of the year, yeah. Call them up. What's going on? But at this point now, you've kind of committed to Zach, and kind of just, we're going to ride this ship. You seeing he's not the guy. Clearly, he's not the guy. But you're on the way to a top 5 draft pick. You might as well just leave it alone, Tony, and go get a lineman. Because I'm telling you, behind that offensive line, if Aaron Rodgers would have played behind that O-line this year, it was going to be an issue. They were going to be better, but it was going to be an absolute issue. I mean, Zach Wilson.
That's kind of why
he's running for his life the entire time. So what are you going to do? You're going to get bring in Kirk. You're not going to win a Super Bowl. But you're going to miss your draft pick. But then you have Aaron Rodgers next year. I think they're probably going to stay put, dude.
And he's probably not going to go to a place that doesn't already want to keep him beyond the
Yeah.
rental. And there's no point in renting him. You have Zach Wilson, who you thought when Aaron Rodgers got signed, all right, we're going to have him kind of learn under Aaron. Maybe he'll grow, and that'll be the best way to kind of bridge to him. Now you got him. Might as well evaluate him. Give him another season to get his feet wet, and then figure out where you go from there. And at the end of it all, you might end up with a nice offensive lineman in the draft. So makes no sense to go get Kirk Cousins, who's not going to win you a playoff game, let alone a Super Bowl. So
That's kind of why I brought it up, because all the media started in on the trade talk yesterday, and I don't think anybody was paying attention to the fact that the Minnesota just put their backup quarterback on IR. So I think some of this, they're like working out Colt McCoy. I think all this was more just depth moves. But I don't know. We've seen crazy things happen, so we'll see.
Let's dive into the next and final segment of the show, which is the weekend matchups, where we go through every matchup of the weekend, starting with Thursday Night Football, and give you our thoughts and who we think wins, loses against the spread. All right, Tony, we'll start with tonight's matchup, Thursday Night Football, Denver at Kansas City, over under a 48 here, and Kansas City, of course, favored by 10.5. Which way are you leaning on this one?
Oh man, TNF. I think we know which way we're going on this one. It's just how many points are going to come out of this game. Kansas City for sure. They're at home. They're a much stronger team. I do think Russell Wilson, is probably going to have a decent game. I think he can. He's got enough options. He's been looking good enough that he might be able to assemble a nice fantasy floor for you. But yeah, Kansas City crushing.
Yeah, Kansas City obviously wins here, but I'm curious if the Broncos still move the ball and score some points, because they usually struggle against teams with good pass rush. And aside from Jones up the middle for Kansas City, they're not really a pass rushing, team per se. Obviously, they're rushing the passer, but they're not doing it at the likes of the Bucks, even the Saints, teams like that who are just getting after the quarterback, the Eagles. So it'll be interesting to see if that over-under holds up.
And can officials keep an eye on Juwan Taylor? Like, what is the deal? Why is this guy just been, they've just letting him get away with murder, and it's blatant. Like, it's on video. We see this. Come on, guys. What the hell's going on?
They're not going to care. Next one, Baltimore at Tennessee. That's usually a very fun one to watch. Very physical game. Over under a 40.5, and Baltimore's favored by 4.5 points on the road. Tony?
I am definitely taking Baltimore on this one. Looking into the Baltimore defense, they have been really, really great this year. Second in the NFL as of right now with 18 sacks. I mean, they're just getting after the quarterback. So I think that they're going to be in the backfield more than Derrick Henry. I think Tannehill is going to struggle in this game. It's going to be a really, really tough day for him. So, yeah, I've got Baltimore. I'm going with Vegas on this one, too. Yeah. I think on the other side of the ball, Lamar looked really good last week. I think he can exploit the defense. Tennessee does have a good rush defense, but you're also dealing with trying to keep Lamar honest too. He can get out there and run. We all know that. So I think they squeak out some big plays this week, and I think Lamar has a nice game. After the game last week with Flowers, I'm still starting him, but I'm pulling back a little bit on his capability of just taking over a game. His physicality doesn't really allow so he's got to be able to get open in space. So just keep that in mind. I mean, I think certain matchups he's going to explode, but I think when he faces a tough defense, like if he's going up against a Houston or Cleveland, something like that, maybe just limit your expectations.
One thing to note here is I think DeAndre Hopkins ends up having a pretty good game, even though his team won't. I think he ends up having a pretty good game. Last week, they seemed to ultra-target him, and they started kind of forcing the issue to get him involved. So that might be something to note. I agree with you. I don't like to pick against Tennessee at home, but this is not the same Tennessee team from a couple years ago, and I think Baltimore gets back on the winning side of things, and this might be a boring game. But I do want to see if Zay Flowers can wake up. I want to see if Zay Flowers can wake up, get in the end zone, earn a starting spot on my team, man, please. Because otherwise, I got to do something with you. You can't just sit on my bench and just be mediocre. Can't give me Michael Thomas numbers every single week. Carolina at Miami. Over under 48.5. Majority of that's probably going to be on the Miami side of things. They are favored by 13.5 points. That means they're probably going to score 1,000. Worst kept secret here? I mean, what are you talking about? Miami, Tony? Is that your pick?
Yeah, no. Yeah, definitely
Carolina?
Miami. I think, so some people might be tempted to put in a couple of Panthers just because last week Bryce did look better, but it was pretty much all garbage time. I mean, they scored once in the first or second quarter, and the rest was all in the fourth. It's not the game for them. And like I said, I think this game gets out of hand quick, and I think it kind of just limits the Panthers. You could bank on some garbage time again, if they just maybe that's the formula with Panthers. If you have those guys on your roster and you're looking for a fill-in with one of them, if they look like they're going to get crushed, maybe just plan on some garbage time. But that's not really the way I like to set up my strategy for the week. Got to do what you got to do. But yeah, Miami in this one. And yeah, I think most of the spread belongs to the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'll pick Miami here too. But something of note in the games that I've watched of the Panthers, Tony, the score doesn't matter or affect their game plan. It seems they just
trying to do anything.
They stick to what they came in trying to do. You would think the game was 0-0 in every single moment of every game they played this season because they'll just hand the ball off, short throw short of the sticks, punt, or maybe get a first down on one of those runs and they do the whole thing all over again. It's just like then punt. It's weird. It's like there's no reaction to the scoreboard at all by this team. So that's what makes me think that they're just going out there, evaluating what they have. This is kind of year one of building whatever they're trying to build, and they're not trying to kind of force anything into Bryce's lap beyond what they think he's capable of at this point. So I don't know if I'd play. That's why I was saying earlier that if you're going to play anybody, probably play a running back for them because he's still going to get his carries because it doesn't matter what the score is. They don't care. So otherwise, don't play anybody on the Panthers if it's me. But so I don't have those guys. Moving on. New Orleans in Houston, over under 42.5. New Orleans favored on the road by 1.5 points. I'm going to say no. Houston continues what they've been doing at home and gets back on the winning track. That's my pick for the day. They definitely will beat New Orleans, who looked a lot better than they actually are against a very, very bad Patriots team. Tony.
Man, I am torn on this one too. I mean, Vegas is going New Orleans. We've all talked about how we like what Houston's doing down there. Kids throwing the ball really well. They've got weapons.
Good defense.
It's tough, man. Yeah, they're playing good defense. Unfortunately, they're facing a good defense. The Saints are running, top of the league in both sides of the ball. So, I guess I'm going to put the energy out there in the universe. I'm going Houston too. Come on, youngin.
CJ Stroud's playing his ass off. He had a game last week, but he still played really well if you look at it as a rookie. And so I see him again coming out wanting to bounce back from that game. He threw a couple of not interceptions. He threw a couple of passes that could have been picked, ended up not being picked. So I still want to see him get back on track.
He's already
at home.
Faced some hellacious defenses and done well. So I mean, I really don't think the kid fears it. And it may be because he's a rookie and maybe he's just getting out there. He just doesn't know exactly what to expect. So it's kind of like, football as usual. And he just gets out there and does it. And it's working. But yeah, I really hope they can pull it out. I'd like to see him upset the Saints.
What people don't talk about is when Tom Brady entered the NFL, he had a defensive head coach and a defensive coordinator and a guy in Bill Belichick who knew defenses. And his kind of secret key to becoming successful was that he and Bill would sit and Bill would break down the opponent's defense with Tom because he knows defense so well, and that would kind of give Tom 2, 3, 4, 5 little keys to the map, and that would help him going into the week. And I think that's what may be happening with Bryce or with CJ Stroud here, is that he's got a defensive coach that's able to kind of unlock a few things for him heading into the week, and he's like, okay, I kind of understand what the defense is doing because my coach is kind of lead. Not only do I understand the offense, but I understand the opponent better because of it. And I think that's what's kind of led to him not throwing picks, making great decisions. He just looks really smooth out there. He doesn't look like he's fighting against the current like most rookie quarterbacks do. And that's why I think against a team like the Saints who can't move the ball on offense really, he's going to get his opportunities to kind of take the game as it gets given to him as opposed to forcing the issue. And that's usually a good recipe for a rookie quarterback.
And I think that's that was part of the Bill Belichick formula also. We always heard him talk about, let's just stay our course, wait for them to make a mistake. He never forced anything. He never got out there and changed his game plan because of, this or that. It was, this is what we plan for the week. This is how we're going to execute. We practice this. Let's go out there and do it. And when they make a mistake, we just continue forward. And by the end of the game, we're going to be ahead of them. And it worked. 9 times out of 10, it did work. So, I really think, like you said, I think Stroud is a smart kid. I think he's probably taking every bit of info that he's getting from coaching, from the experience, even on the practice field, and turning it into relevant knowledge for the game. And he's looked really smart, really comfortable. It's been fun to watch. It's kind of fun. It's given us another team to enjoy on Sunday. It's been a long time since anybody's thought about Houston being something entertaining. Since what, like Andre Johnson?
Yeah, the Andre Johnson. Yeah, I remember that was a fun. Arian Foster.
Good Lord.
Last week, Arian Foster. But the other thing too that Houston's doing really well is again what Bill used to do, which is kind of take away your best option on the other side of the ball with their defense. But they haven't allowed their young quarterback to be in a boat race of any game where it feels like everything's on him and I've got to go carry they've allowed the games to stay close enough to where he can remain comfortable. They can stay in the game plan, maybe tweak it here and there, but they don't have to full on abandon ship. Not to even say that they might do that either way. Maybe they do kind of what Carolina would have done, but they haven't been in that situation yet. They've kind of been in almost every one of these games. They end up beating the Cowboys. So I think they lost the Cowboys, didn't they? But it was a back and forth game. It was a very close game. I can't remember actually. I thought they beat them, but maybe I'm confusing them with the Cardinals. I thought Houston ended up taking them. They went toe to toe with the Cowboys, but regardless, that game again is a good example. They didn't let the game get away from their young quarterback, so that's something to kind of think about there. And again, that's the New Orleans Saints. They're not going to allow that. They're not going to come in there and drop 45 on you in the first half, and all of a sudden you're trying to catch up, and that's what I think is going to end up happening.
Yeah.
So.
They got beat by the Falcons.
Yeah, okay. Well, that was last week. I'm saying a few weeks ago they played the Cowboys, and I thought they went toe-to-toe with them.
I'm trying to see a loss here.
They beat the Cowboys? No, I don't think they beat the Cowboys. Arizona definitely was.
Oh, and the Colts beat them, too.
Yeah.
I forgot their...
all those games are close.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah, all close games.
They're not making CJ do things that he shouldn't be doing as a rookie. Anyway, moving on.
I haven't played the Cowboys yet.
Speaking of the Falcons, we were in Atlanta. Washington in Atlanta over under 42.5, and Atlanta at home favored by 2.5 points. I might disagree with Vegas there. Tony?
I'm not. I'm going to go with Atlanta at home. I think Ritter assembled the better game last week. I still, agree with you. I think he's a high school quarterback, but Bijan's been looking really good, which I forget if it was you or Poppy that said it. You guys were right. I was watching one of the all 22 top down cameras and they zoomed in. It was a little grainy, and that was the situation with the color rush jerseys that I was talking about, how teams were just using a primary color that's not even one of their team colors. It was those jerseys where they were like the Falcon. Well, it is one of their colors, but the Falcons jerseys were all black.
Washington, you mean?
Washington. And it almost looked like the Steelers color rush jersey, like it was black and yellow.
Yeah.
It was Bijan that was running that play, not Brian Robinson. But we're going to see them face each other this week, and I definitely think Bijan is going to be the top back here. I think he has a hell of a game, and I think Atlanta can put a little bit together through the air against Washington. Washington's got a good defense, but I think Atlanta at home squeaks it out. I think Vegas has got a pretty good line on this one.
I think Washington takes that embarrassment from Thursday night and comes out a little bit more focused against a team that, again, high school quarterback. I think they get after the passer here, and then I think they pull off a road upset. Honestly, I think they get their things together. I could see Bijan still having a decent game, but he's still kind of been up and down. He usually has a nice pop run throughout every single game that kind of makes his numbers look a little bit better. But he still has these moments where you can kind of see where he's not playing college ball anymore. He's playing against big boys. Not to say that he's not talented and he's not going to continue to grow and become a guy. Obviously, I think he will. But right now, I don't think he's at that level, obviously. So I think Washington ends up coming in there more focused. Sam Howell doesn't stick his head up his butt, and they somehow figure out a way to throw the ball to their wide receivers in this one and pull off a win. I think it'll be a low-scoring affair, though. But I think I'm going to lean Washington on the road there.
Washington is another one too that it'll be in our starts this week. I think Logan Thomas is a really good option for people that need a tight end. Mm-hmm. Luckily, people are getting Zeus back, so there's not the mad scramble for a fill-in due to an injury again. But yeah, I think Logan Thomas is another one of those that he could literally PPR his way into top 5 tight end this week. I think he's gonna be the safety valve, and he's going to get peppered, although he might not rack up a lot of yardage. I think the receptions are going to be there.
Next one is Indianapolis at Jacksonville, over under 45.5. Jacksonville favored by 4 points here. I don't know which way to go with this one, man. They're not playing in London, so I have no idea what to do.
Vegas got Jacksonville. I'm going Indy on this one. I'm going to go against it again. I think Minshew comes out and lights it up this game. I really do. I think Steichen's going to have a good game plan together for him. And like you said, not that we don't have tape on Minshew, but I think it is kind of the thing that we see very often where backup comes out and he has a great game, and then the following week, not so great, because everybody gets that tape. They start looking at it. They start seeing tendencies and this and that. So I think that Minshew's going to actually be a nice fill-in. I think he might be one of the better backups in the league. I think he comes out. I think we've seen a connection between him and Pittman before. So I think this is going to be really good for the receivers. Honestly, I think Pittman's going to have a game. We saw a little bit of a connection with Josh Downs last week. That's his deep threat. So we might see a couple of bombs downfield to Josh Downs. Hopefully he can snag them and take them into the paint. I think this game could actually be better than what people are expecting.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to agree with you, but disagree with you, if that makes sense. I think Indianapolis wins this game. Jacksonville, if you remember a few weeks ago, even though they won the game, they struggled containing the running game of the Atlanta Falcons. And I think they're now heading into a game against a team that last week, Zach Moss had himself a day, even without his starting quarterback. And not only is he having himself a day on the ground, but he's catching passes. He's becoming a very good running back. And that's what they consider their number 2 option, technically. And now that Taylor's back and they said he's full go 100%, it's going to, I maybe expect a 60-40, 50-50 split, but they're going against, the Jaguars are going against a dual threat backfield at this point of 2 guys that can do basically anything you need them to do.
Yep.
And they have their backup quarterback in. And they have the offensive coordinator from a team last year in the Eagles that could lean on the run via the quarterback or the running game at any moment. This is one of those games, I feel like, where you could have 2 running backs in that 75 to 95, 2 tutties between the 2 of them. I don't know if I would lean one way or the other on either of them, but I think Indianapolis runs the ball down this team's throat, kind of controls the game throughout the entire afternoon, and pulls off a win on the road with Minshew in his return to Jacksonville, by the way.
I was going to say, that's another thing. It's been a little bit of time, but there's probably still a little aroma of what Minshew once knew in Jacksonville. So that might give him a slight advantage as well.
But if it was in London, I would hammer Jacksonville. Seattle at Cincinnati, over under 45.5. Cincinnati favored by 3 at home. This one's an interesting one because I don't know what to think of this Bengals team yet. I have no idea what they are or what they aren't. Obviously, with that injury to Burrow. Can't tell if he's able to play through it last week, or he's getting healthier, or if they got kind of lucky, or if they decide, let's just throw the ball to Chase and see what happens, and good things usually happen. I don't know, man. I might have to have you answer this one first and let me think about this, because I don't know.
Yeah,
Man.
this is a rough one. Also, I mean, it's a thin spread here, and Joe Burrow, week before last, after the game, he came out. He told reporters that he was feeling fine after the game, which some people took as, for him to come out and make the statement. It sounds like he is actually thinking about it, but I think he really does feel better. We saw a little bit of a surge last week. Saw a big surge out of Jamar Chase, but just as far as the production and how Joe Burrow looked, he looked better, a little more zip on the ball. Not to say that, it can't pop up on him at any time. So that's something to think about. You're still starting your studs from Cincinnati, but I think this game is, I think it could turn into a boat race. I really do. I think Geno could come out. I think the receivers have the ability to make this fun to watch. DK popped up. I think he's dealing with ribs. He popped up here on the injury report yesterday. He was a little limited. I think he's going to be good to go by this weekend, but I also think that Tyler Lockett has a good game. I'm feeling a good Tyler Lockett game this week coming. So I think this could end up. They're at home. I guess I'll take Cincinnati. I think they can put it together. I think Mixon can, get out there, tear off a couple chunks, keep the clock on their side.
I'm with you, man. On this
what do you
one.
think?
I feel like I could see a scenario where Seattle wins 5 out of 10 times here, and I could see a scenario where Cincinnati wins 5 out of 10 times. It's very, I could see how they could win. So I just think at the end of the day, you have Chase. They probably don't have a guy that can consistently stop Chase, and you'll have just enough to win. You're at home. You're kind of rolling a little bit of momentum here. Your quarterback's, kind of getting out of, this slumber he's been in since the preseason. So, not to say he's being lazy or anything. I'm just saying because he's the injury, obviously. So, if I'm going to lean towards one side or the other, I'm going to have to go with the home team at home with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they win by a field goal. This might be one of those last team with the possession, kick a field goal. Thank you for coming by, Seattle. And Seattle still plays a good game, I think. So, I see them having. I might say hammer the over on this too. I think this could be a.
I was gonna say something. I feel like this could end up being a little more on the board.
31-28.
What was it here?
35-31, something like. Yeah, right now it's 45.
45 and a half.
So I could see a 31-28 type game with Cincinnati.
And I think pretty much all your options here are good to go. I think everybody for fantasy is safe. I think everybody's going to come out of this game with some points.
Next one is Minnesota at Chicago. We talked a lot about the Vikings earlier in the day, or earlier in the show. Over under 44.5. Minnesota favored by 2.5 on the road against Chicago. No Justin Jefferson. So
no Justin Jefferson. And in his absence, he leaves average of 12 targets a game. So where is that going? I think it's going to end up in the passing game. I think Kirk has a great game here. I mean, Chicago's 31st against the pass. That said, after digging a little bit, and sorry to tell people that may have spent some a good fab chunk on KJ Osborne, but started looking through it. I mean, you had to pick him up, right? Number one wide receiver goes down. He leaves a lot of targets on the board. You pick up the number two. He's going to get an uptick. What I'm going to tell people is don't expect much. Looking through, last week was the first time that KJ Osborne broke 40 yards for the year. Yeah. He's been averaging about 4 receptions, somewhere around 40 yards. And then last week when Jefferson went down, he finally got a fifth reception and put him around 50 yards for the week. So
He's just not. He's not a game breaker. Addison is.
which is wild because you look at KJ and like the catches that he has, he makes them look really good. It looks like he's this guy that could be a star, but he's just not filling the shoes. So yeah, I think it ends up going Jordan's way. I think we really see Jordan come to life here. Maybe a little more, a couple more check downs, some dump offs to Madison.
Yeah, I was gonna say Madison in the screen game probably gonna be bigger here today or this game than usual. Last week he almost had a touchdown. If he catches the ball before he turns and looks, he had a screen play against the Chiefs where there was nobody in front of him and he had two blockers and I think one defender and he had 20 yards to walk into the end zone. Looked before the ball was in. Dropped.
Seeing a lot of that out of running backs here recently. A lot of drops last week. Guys, get in front of the jug, man. Just keep your eye on the ball. Don't run without it.
I think it's so I think he's in his head right now, honestly. I really think he's in his head. A lot of that early season drama that came around him having a bad game and everyone kind of piling on top of him. He's kind of in his own psyche now. And then when you get a play and there's nobody there behind you, you're kind of excited. You look before you secure the ball. You're excited to make that play, and that's what happened to him. He could have had a nice game, well, a nicer game, fantasy-wise. But I think he ends up being those 12 targets. I think that gets split, and he ends up getting a good chunk of those check down passes. The Bucs utilized the check down against the Chicago Bears for first down after first down after first down to their running back. And so if I were to, look at that compared to this, I could see Kirk Cousins doing the same thing. I'm with you.
And Hawkinson owners, you've got quite the week coming, I think. The other side of the ball, I mean, what do you think about Fields? Do you think Fields is is this that same roller coaster we rode last year where he started out looking like a dumpster fire and then turned into
he's not with the right system.
The best quarterback in the league for the last 5 weeks?
He's not the right system. So we talked a little bit about this with Anthony Richardson a couple of times actually throughout the season versus him and Bryce Young, and if you were to swap them, how would they do? And Bryce Young is someone you could probably plug into any NFL offense and he would just kind of do well because he can do all the things well.
Talking about Stroud, yeah.
Oh, sorry. What did I say? Bryce Young again? Damn it. Why do I keep saying that? Why do I keep doing that?
You love that kid, man.
I don't.
Well, you should get a jersey.
No. So at CJ, I'm talking about CJ. But then Anthony Richardson, not to say he won't eventually be that guy. Right now, he's not that guy, I think. I think he needs to be in the system that he's in. Fields, I think the offense that he's in makes it too difficult for him, and he's not developing. He's not learning fast enough. And so having to change offensive coordinators and coaches and all that kind of stuff goes into a lot of that. Put him in a simpler system like what they run with the Colts or the Eagles, where it's almost like I don't want to say it's like a college system where it's a one check, one type of read, but it's
got a very similar,
It's simpler,
and that's kind of what they did last year when he was successful. And then they started scheming him into runs. They simplified the playbook, and he exploded. And then maybe you're right. Maybe it's just a something with him catching up to the speed of a more. A heavier playbook, and just trying to keep all that.
They're making his reads difficult on him, and they're expecting him to do things that Aaron Rodgers is doing, or a guy that's in his they're thinking you've been here how many years, you should be able to do this, as opposed to you've been here how many years and nobody has taught you this. Let's teach you this slowly. Let's get you up to speed, which I think they even assume that he's up to speed. But then I think last week or the week before they let him play his game and they played well. And you're like, okay. This is what they're finally going to do. They figured it out. Oh, and then 2 weeks later, they go right back to
DJ Moore the ball. He's good. He's a really good receiver.
But again, see, I think they simplified things for him. And so, how do you not have a way to just, you should have a really good connection between your quarterback and DJ Moore. That should be an almost automatic every single week. You shouldn't have to think twice about it. Lean on him heavily, find your guy. But I don't think their offense is putting him in the right situation. If he's in... not Minnesota, if he's in Philadelphia, if he's in Indianapolis, I think you see a completely different Fields. Not to say that he'd be 10 times better, but he'd be more serviceable. Right now, I don't know what Chicago offense is trying to do, not trying to do week to week. They have no consistency. They have no identity. And you got Quarterback saying he doesn't agree with how they use him. You got another wide receiver who's like, I don't know what they're doing with me. Guy doesn't even get to suit up because of that. Ends up getting traded. Like,
now your backfield's getting banged up.
yeah, like it's a mess, and so it's not conducive to any sort of success for a young quarterback. And so at this point, I don't think Fields will ever succeed in Chicago, and he'll have to find, a new environment, a fresh start. I don't know how that happens, and it works out. Who knows? Maybe Washington ends up being a team that, I don't know. And I hate to say that because I don't think it's on him. I just think he's not been put in a good situation. It feels a lot like the Carr situation with the Houston Texans back in the day. But
Washington needs to take it to the Washington needs to go to the boutique store one time. They keep going to like TJ Maxx to get their quarterbacks. They're picking up these Carson Wentz's and these guys that are have shown in the past that they play ball but have fallen off, and like, oh, we can get that guy back. We can turn him around. Like, just go to the boutique shop one time and spend up. So that said, I think we've pretty much hammered who we're going with here, and I don't think the Minnesota fan base is going to be happy about it. But I think they come out with a W here pretty easily.
Yep, and I don't think they want to win. You're right. Next one, San Francisco at Cleveland. Over under of 37.5. So I think that's the lowest one we've done so far. Which is odd. But San Francisco favored by 5.5 on the road here. Quarterback for Cleveland is some guy named PJ Walker.
Is it?
I think. It's so weird. The Cleveland Browns were on such a trajectory to start the year. And you're like, this defense is phenomenal. If you just don't mess up on the other side of the ball, they're going to be in every game and probably win most of them. And now they look like dog water. And here come the San Francisco buzzsaw 49ers to town with, hey, we could just do whatever we want on both sides of the ball and just kind of play with our food before we finally eat it. And 5.5 is low in my opinion. But they do still have a good defense in Cleveland, though.
Little strange. I mean, it's a good defense in Cleveland. That's kind of what made them shine, the first couple of weeks and why everybody was so excited. And then, quickly realizing that they invested too heavily in a bum who can call out of work, apparently. And is still not practicing. So I don't know what's going on there. Maybe Deshaun Watson knows more than doctors, but I'm going to go with he doesn't. And I'm going to go with he's scared to play the 49ers, and he's not doing well, and he knows that again. I think he's probably in his head. I know there's a lot of hate a lot of shade getting thrown his way because people are pissed, man. You have the biggest bag that's ever been, and you're not earning your money. Cleveland on the defensive side of the ball, it's been a little strange, right? Like Cleveland comes out, they perform really well against these big juggernaut teams. They did well against Dallas, and then they struggled against teams that seemed like they should have beat. They end up getting beat. My Steelers pulled out a W, which our offense isn't looking real strong at all. So I really don't understand how that happened, but I do understand that the buzzsaw is coming, and they are not going to stop San Francisco with as much of an arsenal as they have. Mr. Brock, still no picks. My man, is holding it down.
Dude is playing in a system that it's hard to throw a pick when you got guys that are just open and you have so many ways to just get the ball to somebody and let them do the heavy lifting, right? Not to say that he's not good quarterback player. He's not doing his own fair share of lifting, but come on. I mean,
he is.
Don't screw up.
But they're doing exactly what you said. Is Shanahan is making the game easy for the kid. He's like, hey man, we're not going to put it all on you. We've got some of the best players in the league. We're going to put it on them. We're going to make this easy for you. You're going to come out. You're going to have some easy handoffs. You're going to have a couple checkdowns. Give it to CMC. He's going to get us the first down. We'll just keep marching down the field. We'll line Debo up wherever we want. We got Brandon Ayuk can tear the top off. You got Kittle there in case of emergency. If no one else is available, Kittle will be there. That's the thing is like, how do you just how do you just cover everybody? It's
And
like almost everybody on that offense needs double coverage.
and they're all interchangeable. They can all play wide receiver, running back, halfback, tight end, motion. They can all play. They can all take handoffs. They can all run the RPOs as the quarterback or the guy next to the quarterback. You could put two of them by the quarterback. Like, you can do so many different things because they're all amoeba type players, and their offense is then merged with an offensive coordinator who's ridiculously creative. He's making up plays.
Amoeba
sometimes.
type players. I like it.
Yeah, they can just shape form however they need to, man. And so
Are they good? They going to the big show this year?
I mean, if they stay healthy, man, knock on wood, this is the team that can. This is definitely a team that's gonna be there. I know it gets tighter in the playoffs, NFC Championship games, but if you have I mean, they almost beat the Eagles last year without their guy, so without their quarterback. So it's just about health at this point. I do think that the Cleveland Browns stop them the first few drives and play a pretty good game for the first half, but at some point, their offense is just going to continue to give the ball back to the Niners, and your defense is just can't be out there 80, 90 snaps a game. The Niners are just eventually going to wear you down, whether it's creatively or physically. So it's a weird
it's almost a
over-under on it, but I think it's closer in the beginning than people think, but it'll eventually be the Niners pulling away.
Yeah, I think as soon as the Niners offense sees that short field, it's going to start that little crack in the dam, and it's just going to keep getting bigger until Cleveland drowns underneath the fantasy points of the Niners and of the real life points. Yeah, that's an easy one. Let's see. New England at Vegas.
Over under 41.5. Vegas favored by 3.
Yeah.
No, man. I don't want to
Yeah.
watch this game. I think Vegas runs the ball down their throat, and that's how they win.
I wish we had a sound drop where we could just both of us stare into the camera and hit crickets right now, because I don't think anyone wants to see this game. I got Vegas in this one. I mean, New England has scored 3 points in the last 2 weeks. It's been really rough to watch. Mac Jones has been pulled multiple times. We might see Zappy again.
I mean,
this
the only
is
thing that
this
works in
is
the favor
sad.
of New England, though, is that the Vegas Raiders are also not very well run. They don't really seem to be doing much of anything right. They only targeted their number one wide receiver 4 times in that game. The game I mean, I don't get why he's even there if you're not going to throw him the ball. Remember, this is Josh McDaniels versus Bill Belichick. I want to say Bill kind of knows everything he needs to know about this offense so he can beat them, but he can't do anything on his offense either. So it's just like eventually Josh Jacobs just beats you, and I think that's what ends up happening here. But
Yeah, I think Bill might surprise people this week. I think they do better, just because
9-3.
he's that guy, that taken two of the worst losses of his career back to back. I think he's gonna pull out all stops this week to look relevant, but I just don't think it's enough. And I think Vegas, like you said, they're not a great team, but I think Max Crosby can get to Mac Jones several times here. And I think, on offense, I just don't think New England has enough firepower to get it done. Like I said, their leading receiver for the season has scored less than DJ Moore scored last week in one game. They're just not putting up anything on offense. And if they can't get going, you can't get points on the board. What are you going to do? And their defense has been banged up. It's just, this is not going to be a fun one to watch.
10-6 Vegas. 10-6 Vegas.
There you go. So much fun. Might as well be a soccer game.
It's like a hockey score or a baseball score, I guess, if you consider baseball a sport, which I don't. Detroit at Tampa Bay, over under 43.5. Detroit on the road, favored by 3. You know which way I'm leaning on this one. I totally disagree with Vegas here. Detroit's banged up. Detroit also has not played a defense like the Bucs. The Bucs are getting a lot of key pieces back on defense and on offense. Mike Evans might play. I think he ends up playing. It looks like they're kind of leaning that way. He's been working individual drills throughout the week, and I think they just do that to kind of make sure that he's good and fresh. Today and Friday obviously will be a big one to see how that injury report comes out if he practices today, and we'll be hear about it on Friday.
Mike, barring a setback, he's going to be out there.
Yeah, he's just that guy, and he understands it. The Bucks are wearing a creamsicle. He's never gotten to do that. He doesn't know what the future holds.
Oh, he's never done it?
No, he's never done that. So he doesn't know what the future holds. Shit. So he probably doesn't want to miss maybe his one opportunity to wear the creamsicles. He's been a big fan of them. He's all over the marketing of that leading up to the season. So it's like, man, I think he's going to end up playing. Obviously not because of a uniform, but there's a little added motivation there, a little cherry on top.
Do you have that one?
Do I have what?
The Evans creamsicle?
I don't like that color at all. I am not a fan.
Oh, that's right. You hate it. Yeah,
no, yeah. It's ugly. It's symbolic to it's synonymous with losing. I don't want anything to do. It looks like something you wear to church on Easter morning. Like, I'm not interested in that color at all. It does not strike fear in anybody. It's like, oh, we're playing this.
Yeah, it's not real intimidating, is it?
No, it's not. So going back to the game, I think the Bucks, Kalijah Kancey here playing next to Vita Vea, this rookie that they've drafted that they've kind of, a lot of people going into the NFL draft consider to be a baby Aaron Donald in terms of his size. Guy's been explosive in the 11 plays that he played at Minnesota in the beginning of the year. They brought him along slowly to make sure that they don't re-aggravate this calf injury and make it something that's more long-term. I think he's ready to roll this week. He's been practicing. Carlton Davis practicing. Jamel Dean practicing. We got everybody rolling. Nice. Devin White on the Fully Loaded podcast earlier this week. He's all good. So, and you got Antoine Winfield Jr. playing out of his mind. This is a defense that Detroit has not faced. And the way to get to Goff is to create pressure like you do on most quarterbacks. But the Bucks are especially skilled at creating that pressure in the face of the quarterback, and that's really where Goff struggles, because I know he can run, and move the pocket around, but once you get in his face and you put that pressure right up in his lap, he's not the same quarterback that he is at home on that turf and facing a less physical defense in the Bucks. So I'm hammering the Bucks here. I think this is a fun game to watch, something like 27-20.
Me too.
But this might be the game of the week. They moved it to 4 o'clock for a reason, I think. But I will definitely go Tampa Bay here, obviously. But I've given you some sound argument as to why. It's not just red and pewter shades.
Yeah, and I mean, I try to keep myself steered in the right direction, because you guys can be kind of convincing. But
facts don't lie.
Yeah, and I hope I don't eat my words here, but I'm going to go Tampa as well. It's a home game. We do what we do down here. When we got the Cannons, they're playing really well. They're top half defense in the league right now. Passing and rushing defense and quarterback pressure. Detroit is banged up all over the place. I mean, their offensive weapons are banged up. Their top 2 offensive weapons are banged up. They've got Montgomery running the ball well, but people haven't been running the ball very well. I think Tampa's sitting 10th in the league against the rush, and that's with them kind of getting banged up here and there.
But also,
and
take out
Detroit,
that massive Eagles game out of that equation. They're probably top 5. They gave up over 150 yards on the ground there at Swift alone. Sorry.
And Detroit has just been placing guys on IR left and right. I mean, they've got 2 tackles are banged up. They've got what else did I say? A linebacker, a defensive end. I mean, they're really getting riddled with guys that are out for quite a while here. So I think it's going to force them into a little bit of a different game plan this week, which I think is going to it's not going to go very gracefully. I think against this defense, I think it makes it rough for them. I think we see some mistakes, and not that I'm sitting Goff, but I would definitely be looking around. If you have another quarterback that's in a good matchup, you might want to slot him in this week, because I don't think we're getting a great game out of Goff. Sorry, Sammer, I know you just picked him up. I don't know if you're one of those guys that's superstitious and won't play against your own squad, but
I cut him.
I wouldn't play him anyway.
I cut him.
No, dude.
No one's gonna pick him up. My league hasn't sitting there. I had to, man. I have massive issues at running back. I'll get him back. Also,
get him back, dude. I'm telling you, that playoff schedule is going to be great for you.
I got Herbie until then, but something of note here, although Montgomery is running the ball really, really well, the guy that would actually give the Bucs more trouble would be a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, a very Kamara-like running back who can, expose the Bucs linebackers, maybe their speed and coverage, things, because he's so athletic. But again, kind of the counter argument to that is they do have Sam Laporta, who will demand some sort of attention, whether it's from Antoine, whether it's from Izzian, who's a smaller nickel cornerback against a big tight end, or Devin White, Levante Davis. So he's going to get his opportunities there. Buck's going to have to, figure out a way to limit some of that stuff. But I don't see Montgomery being able to. His stature, that type of running back, usually doesn't fare well against the Bucs defense because they have a guy like Vita Vea who's so big in the middle. There's really not much of a crease there, and you can't really push through that guy. And now you got Kalijah Kancey playing next to him as well. So Montgomery doesn't fit kind of the scat back running back that you need. Swift is a bigger guy with the Eagles. He's the guy that kind of gashed us. You need that, And Montgomery, I don't think has fared well in the pass against the Bucs either.
I don't think Gibbs plays this week. But like we talked before, and even if he does, we haven't seen him utilized a whole lot. They haven't put a large workload on him, so they're definitely not going to start when he's coming into a game with a lingering hamstring. And one thing I shouldn't say one thing. Another thing that we've seen out of David Montgomery is great pass pro. So I think that's probably going to be a lot of his role this weekend. Dealing with this Bucs defense, I think Montgomery's going to be out there to at least rub, chip, do something before he gets out, and he's probably going to end up just swinging out into the flat a lot and being there in case he's needed. I think once they try and run it up the gut with him a few times, they're going to be met with some pretty good resistance. Yeah. I won't say that he's not going to succeed some, because we've seen Montgomery running really hard this year. He's looked really good. So I think it's just going to be a battle back and forth. I think, it's going to be a couple steps forward for Montgomery, a couple steps back when the Bucs defense puts it on him. But I don't think we're going to see Montgomery come out and just own the game like he has in previous weeks. I think this is going to be a fun one to watch. I'm going Tampa. I think Tampa wins it, by 4, so something of the like, But yeah, put that one on your list. Definitely want to watch that one this weekend.
The Bucs will probably bring some linebacker blitzes right up the gut to some, edge blitzes with Antoine as well to kind of get after Goff. Although he's mobile, he's not a guy that's going to outrun a blitzer and kind of have Devin White right up in your face.
Laporta's a good play. Laporta's going to be seeing a lot of stuff that's kind of like, oh, hey, all right, we're throwing it already.
He's going to get some work for sure. Arizona at LA against the Rams, over under 48.5. The Rams are favored by 7. I agree with Vegas here. Not much to say or add from my perspective. Rams beat although the Cardinals aren't playing terrible, I think the Rams just have too much. They'll beat the crap out of them.
This is one that's at the top of my list for the week, man. I really want to see this game. Cardinals have been really holding their own. They that game last week, watching them play, I really thought they were going to get skunked. They looked good. I mean, they were playing smart. There was, a lot of guys seem to be stepping up or trying to fill the role. So it's like everybody's on the same page with like, hey, we got to play better than we are. And they have been. It hasn't always been enough to get them the W, but they've been a lot of fun to watch. That said,
the Rams have Cooper Kupp.
Oh, boy.
And
Rams
Puka
Kupp came back and looked really, really fresh. I mean, he didn't look like he was hindered at all. You kind of were scared after seeing the specialist, right? And early injury for the year. Oh, man, Kupp, what the hell? And then he comes back last week, gets just lit up with targets.
Dude, the first 3 or 4 passes
took him in stride.
The first 4 passes of the game.
Matt was like, this is my breakfast buddy. In case you didn't know, this is the guy. Oh, you missed him last play? That's him. Yeah, the guy with Kupp. So that he's got him now. He's got Puka. He's got Tutu. He's got all these
weird fucking names.
All these syllables.
Weird names.
But Yeah, it's
They're all
they're
four
going to be
letters.
firing all over the field. The Cardinals are allowing the fourth most passing yards and the sixth most touchdowns on the year. So the Cardinals offense has been keeping them in games, but their defense has been trying to give them away. And their defense has even made some plays, but they're not stopping the offense. They're just making plays here and there where they're getting a pick or they're forcing a fumble. But as far as like shutting down receivers, stopping running backs, they're not doing it. So fantasy is we're going to come out of this game with some fantasy points, both sides of the ball, I think.
This will be 31-17 Rams, dude. It'll be out of hand. They just can't stop. They have three receivers with four letters in their last name. I mean, you got Puka, first name, last name, no idea at this point. You got Cup and you got Tutu and throw in anybody else, Bobo. I mean, whatever you want to call them. Put them out there. Stafford will find them. McVay will scheme them open.
Yeah.
They are going to be too much for Cardinals to deal with. Man.
Stafford's my start of the week this week. You know, with starts of the week, keep in mind, guys, that our starts of the week here. I don't know. You know, not every show does it. I'm not going to tell you to start Pat Mahomes. You know, if it's a every week starter, you know, never leaves your starting roster, we're not going to be posting those. So I'm going to be trying to dig through and find the gems, you know, that you can plug and play. That last week may have not had a great game. There's a couple of those in our starts this week where you know, James Cook is going to be in our starts. He went for -4 yards last week. You know, not very often you're going to turn around and say, hey, that guy's a sure bet this week. But, you know, I think Stafford, although he hasn't been great for fantasy, he's been good in real life football. And I think that balances out this week. I think he's going to have a really good game for fantasy.
That moves us to the Philadelphia New York Jets game. It's in Jersey, over under 41. Philadelphia favored by 7. I agree. They'll beat them by 20. Next.
Yeah. Yeah. Next game. Speaking of getting beat by 20. No, I mean, I think, you know, you know what you're doing in the Philly Jersey matchup. You're going to have to start Garrett Wilson if you got him. You know, you're just kind of limiting what you expect. Again, Breece Hall is getting started. Philly's got a decent run defense. Their defense has been slipping a little, in my opinion. They haven't looked as good as their pedigree, but Philly side of the ball, you're starting everybody. You know, Hurts is getting in. He's getting his 2 tush pushes a week, so it doesn't really even matter if he, you know, racks up yardage. We've seen some huge games out of AJ. He's an obvious start. We don't have to mention that. I think Devonta Smith could have a game here. Goddard had a huge game last week, so I think he's back on the radar with Hurts. So I think Goddard's another one that's a safe bet this week to at least get himself to the top of the trash heap of tight ends. And I'm not calling them trash. I'm just saying it's been pretty rough with tight ends again this year.
Heap.
So
just say
the
heap.
heap.
Man. Heap.
Yeah.
Right? Don't gotta be rude. I agree. Don't. Yeah, the Jets aren't gonna win this game. That's all that matters. And Jalen Hurts is gonna get his 2 cheap touchdowns on that cheap play that they still allow people to. I mean, whatever.
That's really killing people for fantasy, man. Yeah, they're still talking. They may do something about it. You know, put something in the rules.
It's an unfair advantage. The defense is not allowed to do anything like that. You can't. Like, there's no way to stop it. It's not football. It's just a cheap play, in my opinion. And it's like, I don't like it, man.
I think that's a good point. You know, if it's illegal for, you know, on a field goal attempt, if it's illegal for a defender to push off of the back of one of the defensive linemen, then it should be illegal for 2 guys to line up behind the quarterback and shove him through.
And
you know,
where's the line get drawn? Are they going to allow guys to just like pick up their quarterback or running back and toss him over the line of scrimmage? Like,
right.
And the other thing with me is that even
just
if you want to
old,
say that it's football and you should just stop them and this and that, if you want to go that route, that's fine. But the other part of this is that they don't know where the ball is. They don't ever know where the ball is because you can't see it. You can't see the quarterback. You can't see where his knee actually goes down. And the guys, when they run up from the sideline, the referees, they're just guessing. And they've guessed the majority of the time wrong. You're looking at it, you're like, how did you give him that? Where did you see that he was there? Because he ended up there? I mean, and so like they're just guessing, and you're looking at it, you're like, okay, and the defenders are like, okay, you can't challenge it because there's nothing that can confirm or deny what happened because you can't see it. So that's my biggest thing is they're just guessing where the ball ends up. Like, it just I don't like it because of that.
We talked about this the other day.
You just don't know where the ball is.
Can we not? When are we going to chip this ball? Like, why is it so hard? All we got to do is put a microchip in both sides of the ball.
Yeah, but
and
that doesn't
run a
take
little invisible line underneath the goal line. And
but Tony, that doesn't take into account where his knee is. Like, when does his knee go down before the ball? With the chip in it.
Well, I'm just saying it would put us one step closer, and it's a little easier to see a knee most of the time than it is the ball in that huge scrum of massive dudes.
You can't see anything in that scrum. That's my point. The quarterback is in between all these massive bodies, and you just see their bodies, and you then see the ball just scored up at the very end. You're like, oh, okay, he did it. What? How? How do you know that?
Yeah, it's like the play happens, there's chaos, you can't see anything, and then just a bunch of Eagles players holding their arms up.
And then the
ref's kind of like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I guess he's there. I didn't see anything that says the contrary, so I guess so. And that's the thing. That's like they're just kind of by default giving them the first down or giving them the touchdown on fourth down. They're just kind of by default giving it to him because they don't know where the ball is. They don't know if his knee's ever down. Like, you don't know if he just lays down flat on his belly and they just push him underneath all the bodies. You had no idea because you can't see. You cannot see that. I'm not that's not happening, but you just can't see it, man. It drives me nuts. And I can't even imagine what it's like being a defender on a football field going against that, where you're playing your ass off. You get him to fourth down, and then the referee just hands it to him, and you're like, what the fuck am I going to even do? Like, you can't – not only are you trying now to stop them, now your goal is to, we have to keep them out of 3rd and 2. You know how hard that is as a defender in the NFL to keep a team out of 3rd and 2? Not just keep them out of 3rd down and short. Keep them out of 3rd and 2 every single time. Otherwise, you're giving them a first down two plays later. Like, that's ridiculous, man. That is ridiculous. You can't stop that.
And it's got to be so taxing as well, with that tush push on the goal line, because you have to stay tense, right? Because there's such a pile. He's going to continue to dig. Whether or not they've blown the whistle. If he's covered up by 6 guys, he's going to keep churning his legs and trying to dig and burrow farther and farther. So you just got to sit there and hold for as long as it takes for these refs to come over and start tearing guys off, which we've all seen can take a few minutes. It's got to be physically taxing for these guys. So
and as a defender,
we've seen it happen already this year, where it's like, okay, they said that he didn't get in. Well, they just line up again and run another tush push. And it's like, man, I'm gassed. We just tried to stop him all the way down the field. Now I just basically squatted 750 pounds for the last 30 seconds, and I got to do it again.
And on top of that, when you're a defender, you can't keep pushing beyond the whistle, right? Because then you also take the risk of getting hit.
Yeah,
with
you just
got to, right?
Sit there.
And then you give up 15 yards, you get a personal foul or unsportsmanlike conduct, all that kind of shit happens. And so you're like, what am I supposed to do then? And at some point, I want to see a defensive coordinator just line up his 2 biggest human beings in a line behind each other and be like, you're now going to push Aaron Donald with your massive strength. You're going to just throw Aaron Donald into the line. And what's going to happen when one of those guys finally has a spinal injury or a vertebrae type of injury, a neck injury, something like that, where you're like, well, we just kind of they're literally creating car accidents here when they do this play. It's unfair advantage to the defense. I don't think you're even allowed to touch a long snapper on special teams now, right? You're not allowed to ram right up against him. So what's the difference here? How they're allowed to do it to us, but we're not allowed to do it to them as a defense?
There's just not as near as much momentum. It's like when you said that, it immediately took me back to the Ryan Shazier injury. When he ran up and he had, I think he had about a 5, 6, 7 yard start before he got to scrimmage, and the impact was made, that caused his injury. But these guys are just lined up right on top of each other. Half the time they're, before the helmets make contact, they're already full, both hands into shoulder pads type of deal. So I think it does limit it somewhat as far as the risk goes in that regard, but I do still think it's dangerous. And I do think that it's not good for anybody, really. I mean, besides the fantasy owner of Jalen Hurts and just the franchise of the Eagles putting another score on the board, but no one else likes it. I'm sure the officials hate it because of what it puts on them. Nobody else in fantasy likes it because it takes all these touchdowns. You're pretty much guaranteed if they're within 3 yards, it's going to be Jalen Hurts. So your running backs lose all the goal line and red zone work, and it's just really difficult for the opponents. I just
get rid of the play.
It's weird for me because it's sometimes unless something's really egregious, I don't want to just knee jerk like, hey, get rid of it. But
can't stop it. There's no way to stop it. All I can see now is that they go do Palomalu type shit where they just have the guy start running from 5 yards back,
try and time it,
and just try to time it and jump right over the top. And even if you jump right over the top, you have a guy meeting you who's got 2 people behind him pushing him into you. So he's just going to helicopter himself out of the play.
Make sure you don't touch any of your own guys.
Right, and then it's leaping
on your way over.
So there's no way for a defense to stop the play. You can't allow a play where there's no way to stop the play. Usually things will happen. I remember when the Wildcat first started in Miami with Ricky Williams and Ronnie Brown, and everyone's like, oh man, no one can stop this. And then eventually defenses were like, no, we got a way to stop it. Check this out. And they stopped it and it went away. There's no way to stop this. There's just no way to stop it unless they let us do illegal things on defense. But that's not
again, there's no development, right? So there's no time to really do anything about it. So if the play can't develop, there's no development to the play. It's just immediately move. Everyone's pushing forward. There's nothing you can do.
There's also no way for the defense to just overload the middle because then Jalen Hurts can fake it and just toss it over the top. And you're like,
yep.
So there's literally no way to stop this. There's no way to stop this.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to see that later in the season when when things really start to matter. We start looking at who's going to win divisions or possibly, just even into playoffs. I think we're going to see them pull a couple of fakes because everyone expects the tush push at this point.
I think it was a college game where they kind of lined up for what looked like a quarterback sneak, and the quarterback had another guy behind him. And he snapped the ball to the quarterback, and then he tried to snap it between his legs to the running back behind him while also pushing forward to make it look like a quarterback sneak. And then that running back was taken and go around the outside, but the ball fumbled and went everywhere, and they ended up losing the ball somehow. Totally backfired. But I was like, that's not a terrible idea if they can pull it off, like a double snap type of scenario. And then the guy behind him, basically no one's accounting for that dude. They're all so focused in the middle. But I definitely see Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and since they got the 2 guys, now you got a lead blocker out there for you also. Yeah, that's not a bad idea, but that's tough. I mean, we saw Detroit pull it off last week. It was on the goal line, but that is a really tough trick to pull off.
They tried it in the 50-yard line. I can't remember what team it was. It was earlier in the season. I'm pretty sure it was a college game. Anyway,
getting away from the tush.
Let's go to New York Giants at Buffalo. Over under 44.5. Buffalo favored by 14 points. 2 touchdowns here. Holy shit. I agree. Buffalo destroys the New York Giants. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, they're all going to have days here. Giants they can't block anybody. Buffalo's defense going to have themselves a day. This is going to be a boring
Sammer,
one.
This might be one you want to play Diggs and Davis. This might be one you could get away with that, and they still both have a game. New York, Saquon, now that Poppy's gone, just rest up this week, man. Don't even worry about it. I mean, you guys are not going to win this one. You're not going to out race Josh Allen and that offense. Waller's saying he's okay, but groins suck. It's going to give him an issue. He's going to know it's there. He hasn't been doing well anyway. He had his best week last week with, I think, 8 points, something like that, 12 points. Daniel Jones is a problem. This I'm going to watch this one just because I love watching Buffalo destroy, but this is not going to be a fun game.
This is going to be a great game. It's going to be very fun to watch because New York Giants fans having meltdowns. Danny Dimes, no offensive line. This is going to be so...
Oh, I think that's the first time I heard Danny Dimes this season.
Danny Dimes, yeah. I feel bad for him a little bit because I think he just... I think he's already eclipsed the sack total for that really bad year that Andrew Luck had. He's already eclipsed that now, or something like that. Some stat I saw, or no, over the last couple of years or something like that. He's already been sacked more times than anybody, and just get the guy an offensive lineman that knows how to block, please. Like both New York teams, zero offensive linemen between the two of their teams, like none. Nobody should be starting on either of those two units, or maybe not, but regardless,
It's very important.
Buffalo.
It's very important.
You might want to invest in those guys. They've also tried to, I think, to their credit. They've tried. They just missed on every single one of them.
Yeah, New York has had a really bad track record over the last couple of years with their draft picks. So that is part of the problem is they haven't had anybody work out for them. It sucks. That's one thing. That's why we always look towards the draft in fantasy. And a lot of guys like to trade draft picks. I will trade away my draft picks for a sure bet also any day because it's a lotto ticket. There's some guys that you see the pedigree and it's almost a guarantee. When your Breece Halls come out,
but you still don't know.
We're looking at Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm pretty sure he's going to translate to the NFL. But, yeah, you just don't know. We've seen guys that were supposed to come out and be studs and world beaters completely fall on their face. It's just a risk you take. And in fantasy, I will give you that. That is part of my strategy year after year is I will take a sure bet and trade away my first-round pick time and time again. I'm not going to trade away my first-round pick for peanuts. I'm not going to give you a first-rounder for Tyler Boyd or anything. But, I will always take a known commodity, especially also, something, just a tip we didn't include in the training camp video. If you're in Dynasty and you're in a first year, if guys are willing to trade you picks for your startup draft for, if you can receive a third round pick in your startup and trade away a first rounder for your next year's rookie draft, do that every day because there's so much more value in the early rounds of a startup. I will take a third round guy from a startup draft over a first round pick in a rookie draft 10 out of 10 times. So yeah, keep that in mind and just remember sometimes this doesn't work out and it doesn't work out in real life for some franchises and you end up looking real bad.
That's what the NBA is all about, man. They trade away those picks like nothing because they know if I can get somebody I know can play ball, I'm just going to go with that guy. Unless it's, a guy coming out like LeBron or even Kobe wasn't a guy that everyone knew exactly what he was going to be. But, who knows what this Wembley kid's going to be. But anyway, it's not an NBA show. But they always lean on the known commodities over the unknown draft guys. But it's a little bit different league too. But this helps there's no way to segue to this. Last game of the week, it's Monday Night Football. Dallas at the LA Chargers. This is the only game that hits that over-under gold of 50. This was at 50.5, so you know that there's going to be fantasy points spread out on this one all over the place. Dallas is favored by 2. This is also the return of, I don't think it's the return because he's at home, but this is the offensive coordinator of the Chargers is facing his former team, the Dallas Cowboys. Yep. Dak versus his old guy. This is going to be every bit of that 50.5 over under, man. This is going to be fun to watch. I think it's going to be a fun game. I don't know which way I'm leaning, but curious what you think, Tone.
I'm going to lean Chargers. I think I think he comes out ready to play his old team. I think he's probably got a couple of really good plays up his sleeve that he's been saving. And I think Herbert, he's healthy again. He's got weapons. He's dealing without Mike Williams, but I think they've had a couple weeks now to work with Johnston. Yeah, I think Eckler's coming back. Sounds like Eckler week 1 put up 170 yards and like 2 touchdowns against a formidable defense. I don't remember exactly who they played week 1, but I remember seeing it and saying, man, that's a good defense this year. Like he was balling. So I think they have too many options. I think Dallas does. What are we seeing here? What's it?
I'm leaning
Minus
Dallas.
2?
I'm
Really?
leaning Dallas only because they were embarrassed last week on a national stage. They get to kind of right the wrongs in the public's eyes here. They get to go into a team that they lean a bit too much on the analytics. I think they make some weird decisions as a coaching staff, and I feel like they don't know how to manage the clock very well in LA there. I just see Dallas coming out, man. This is going to be a shootout. I think
Dallas got to get this run game going.
But I think they just pass the ball all over the place either way. So, and Dak has a lot to prove. Terrible game he played. I just don't see them losing 2 in a row. Chargers have tried to lose games as much as they've tried to win them this year. So I'm leaning Dallas minus 2. I don't know what to think of what CeeDee Lamb's going to end up doing, but he talked. He wasn't very happy. A lot of people kind of labeling him a wide receiver 2, not a wide receiver 1. There's a lot of chips on the Dallas side in terms of their shoulders. That's why I'm leaning towards them. Micah Parsons, a lot of guys that want to kind of get that taste out of their mouth from the 49ers game, what the Niners did to them. So I'm going to lean Dallas.
And so far this year, all the squeaky wheels have gotten the oil. So, maybe Lamb does get focused on this game. We see him come out of here with a good fantasy day. I'd like to see it on the Dallas side of the ball. You're starting Pollard, hoping for the best. They got to get this run game going in Dallas. Obviously, Lamb, Gallup's probably a good flex here, and Ferguson's been holding his own. Being tight end relevant this year in the top 10. He's getting some yards. Like to see him get a touchdown or two. But until then, he's a guy that can appease for the tight end. The Chargers. Trying to think if there's anybody I wouldn't start, because there's a lot of guys that I would flex there.
Start all of them.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a shootout game.
Yeah, it's gonna be a shootout. I think this will be fun to watch. It's a decent Monday night game. We've been having a couple of misfires on primetime just due to injuries and things that the NFL didn't see happening before they scheduled. But yeah, finally we're getting a good gun show on Monday night, I believe.
Hell yeah. All right. This is a long episode. For
Yeah.
who did watch the entire thing.
We got up early for this.
We got up early. Let's get going. Tony, good luck, man. Week 6.
You too,
in the
brother.
books. We crushed it. This was an awesome show. This is a lot of stuff too to take in. A lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, those of you out there, if you liked it, enjoyed it, hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. And for those of you who don't know, we're also available on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere else that you download and listen to your audio podcasts. And vice versa. If you're listening and haven't gotten a chance to watch us, we're on YouTube. Just search Big Tuddies Fantasy Football, and we will pop up. Subscribe, like as well. Leave a comment. We do our best to answer roster and week to week trade and anything that you have questions about your team.
You guys got trade questions? Hit us up.
Push them in. We'll get them on our shows, and we will help you get ready for the week. Big Tuddies.